Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wonderful people, wonderful friends out there. I hope all of you are doing wonderful this today. All right, we are gonna go straight. I would first of all want to welcome each and every one of you who is listening to Leadership Academy. Um, this is our second day on the topic understanding the principle of justice. Understanding the principle of justice. So I'm going to recap what we discussed the last week on the principle of justice, and then we would go straight to continue the topic today. So last week we spoke about the fact that justice is the establishment of truth in the defense of life and freedom. Justice is the establishment of truth in the defense of life and freedom. We spoke about truth being the nature or the reality of a thing or a statement, and it's always rooted in purpose. You cannot separate truth from purpose. We spoke about the difference between truth and facts, and that facts could be tangible, but truth may not be tangible. Sometimes you need to dig a little deeper to get to the truth. We cited an example of a diamond ring that has fallen into a mud. When you pick it up, the fact is that you have mud in your hands, but the truth is that when you wash off the mud, it's an expensive diamond ring covered in mud. Sometimes truth may not be tangible, they may not be visible. You need to dig a little deeper to get to truth. Facts may be tangible. And facts, we also understood from last week's discussion that facts could be my opinion, it could be your opinion, it could have multiple faces to facts. We could have multiple faces to facts. So it's based on my opinion, based on my interpretation, and based on your interpretation or your opinion and your perspective will give us facts. But truth is not based on my opinion. It is not based on my perspective. It cannot be based on your perspective. Truth is just as it is. And we also discussed that the truth just as it is almost the same as justice. Justice. So you cannot separate justice from truth. So sometimes, even as it takes a little longer for you to get to truth, that is why the issue of instant justice is not acceptable, because sometimes you think you are administering justice, but no, you are rather administering condemnation without knowing the truth or without getting to the truth. So in reality, there is nothing like instant justice. So today we are going to dive a little deeper into justice, understanding the principle of justice. I just want to say this. Justice is not found in our institutions. Justice must first begin in our communities. If the communities are bankrupt of justice, guess what? The institutions are not going to have justice either. So we cannot relinquish, or we cannot give justice or seclude justice to the institutions. Justice must first begin from the community. If the community has no justice, the institutions will have no justice. So, what do I mean by the justice must begin in the community? We must make sure that availability to resources are not hindered. or are not secluded or the preserve of a few of the people in the community. We must make sure that everybody has access to the resources in our communities. Everybody must have access to good schools, good education. Everybody must have access to good health care. Everybody should have access to all the resources we have in our communities without any segregation or divisions. That is where justice begins. Because sometimes, friends, we are partakers of injustice even when we think we are administering justice. We have to make sure that the marginalized in society are being helped to be able to put the pieces together to contribute their portion to the development of our community, instead of us leaving them to wallow in whatever pit they find themselves in by themselves. And sometimes, out of frustration, they do stuff which is against the law, and then we take them to court to claim to be administering justice, not forgetting that we have contributed to their problems. In that sense, that would be no justice. So justice begins in our communities. We have to make sure that we look out for the weaker ones amongst us, those who did not get good beginnings, who did not get good foundations. What are we doing to help them to be able to build a solid foundation, to be able to get along and be productive members of our communities? So when we talk about justice, it is not in our institutions, it is in our communities. It moves from the community into the institution. When we have that deeper understanding of the principle of justice, you know what it does? It eliminates corruption. The reason we're struggling, our leaders, so-called leaders, are struggling with corruption in the political arena is because we don't have leaders in politics. We have politicians. And you know, politics deals with numbers. So they always cater to the numbers and not to the truth. So if you have a deeper understanding of justice, what it does is it eliminates corruption from your circles. Because one, you know that one of the responsibility or the major responsibility of a leader is to cultivate and coordinate resources. So anytime resources is given to you, is at your disposal, you know that you are a custodian, and so it has to be dispersed accordingly. And therefore, you are not going to be greedy. You are not going to grab them and save them in your personal accounts. That is why I get worked up when I hear people talking about entrapment. If you understand the principle of justice, anytime somebody is entrapping you or somebody is pushing money on your desk, you will tell the person, I am here to serve my nation. I am here to serve my community. So I don't indulge in such activities. You proclaim your stance. You don't go about taking it and the next minute blaming it on the person who pushed it on your desk. That is insane. That is lack of understanding of justice, of the principle of justice in leadership. If you understand the principle of justice, it will eliminate corruption. Because you will know that the resources must be available to all in your community and not a section of the people. And number two, if you understand the principle of justice, it eliminates favoritism. You don't favor a certain group of people and neglect one group of people. Oh, because these people are from my place. These people are from this place. I know these people, so I must do them special favor. You don't push all the resources into a certain community and neglect certain parts of the community. In that case, you are assisting other people in the community to be pushed into doing stuff, wrong things in our communities. And the next minute we take them to court claiming to be demanding justice or administering justice, forgetting that we are all culprits of whatever offense they committed because we neglected their needs. We denied them access to the resources for them to grow and to develop their gifts, to be able to serve meaningfully and productively to their communities. So when we understand justice, it will eliminate favoritism. It will also eliminate isolation. We will be our brother's keeper. We'll always be looking out for the weak ones amongst us. When I mean weak, I'm not talking about strength as in physical strength. I'm talking about people who lack certain resources. And if we have certain resources, or if we have the ability to help them out, we do so. Because justice begins from the community. It begins from home. Parents, we got to teach our children principles, values. If we neglect our children, if we neglect our responsibilities of being parents by teaching values and principles of life to our children, guess what? We are contributing to injustice in our community. Because there will not be the availability of resources that would cause the children to understand and to know the values and the principles of life, for them to build their lives on those principles. And so guess what? Instead of them becoming assets to our community, they become liabilities to our communities. So when we talk about justice, it goes beyond the institutions. And I always say justice is not in the courtroom. Justice is within our communities. What are we doing about the marginalized in our society? What are we doing about those people who were left behind because we decided to keep them out of the cookie jar? What are we doing about those people? It's about time we begin to understand the principle of justice, because justice will put you always on the right side of. You would always stand for the truth. You would always look for the right thing to do. So I just want to encourage us today. Let us begin to dig into our hearts. Let us begin to dig into the deepest part of our hearts and ask ourselves, do we really understand the principle of justice? And are we being custodians or ambassadors of this principle of justice? Because until we understand that principle, we can never be good leaders. Because It is one of the foundations of the principles of the leadership, the principle of justice. So if we want to be good leaders, even as we thrive to become good leaders, we thrive to look for the qualities, the gifts that has been deposited in us, and try to harness those gifts, develop those gifts to serve our community and our generation and generations to come. We would do that by understanding the principles of leadership and understanding the principle of justice. Very vital. I don't know, but I don't even know how to stress this point or bring this point home to us, that the principle of justice is one of the wheels of good leadership. You take it out, leadership grinds to a halt. Thank you so much for listening to Leadership Academy and being a part of this particular topic, understanding the principle of justice, part 2. Next week, we're going to be talking about understanding the principle of justice, part 3. And I want to entreat all of you to make time next week, Saturday, 12 noon, US time, 5 p.m. Ghana time. Make sure you make time so you be a part of this particular discussion. So together we'll be able to equip ourselves and prepare ourselves leadership, so we will not be found wanting when the time comes for us to serve our generation and our nation. Thank you so much. My name is Nana Osei Bonsu Jr. of Afriwick International Organization and Serto Leadership International. Thank you for listening. And until we meet again next week, I say be a good custodian and be a good ambassador of justice. See you. God bless you.